Coming at you from the swamps of Jersey, this is We Persisted podcast series. Today, public education is looked at as a failure and teachers are to blame. Well, enough is enough. All around the country, from Oklahoma, Los Angeles, West Virginia, Arizona, North Carolina, Oakland, and now Denver, teacher strikes are igniting. Is a teacher resistance movement finally catching fire? In the context of New Jersey, we will be discussing how neoliberal policies, like former Governor Christie's education reform policies, and growing privatization in education, along with derogatory rhetoric towards teachers, have impacted New Jersey teacher experiences and education as a whole. We will also talk about the ways in which those grievances are driving and fueling teacher-resistant movements in and outside the classroom as a result of these grievances. We will finally go behind the scenes into the lives of extraordinary teachers. We will finally give them the bully pulpit to share their own story, one that defines what it is like being a teacher in a for-profit America in the age of Donald Trump. My name is Chelsea Rivera, and today we are talking with Rich, an elementary public school teacher from John A. Forrest School in Fair Lawn. Let's begin.
I came to teaching not as a first career, but as a second career.
Okay.
I went to school for theater and acting and plays and all of that.
Right.
And then into New York and had that career experience, looking for work, getting auditions, getting small jobs, hoping they lead to something, doing all of that. Did that for it was close to 10 years.
Wow.
And then had a one of those moments in life that happen to you where you say, I can't continue to beat my head against this wall.
Right.
I got to find another wall.
Right.
So I thought about, I had a child already. I had Vanessa already.
Okay.
And it was like, what else can I do? Because I'm not making a living at this thing that I've chosen in this career that I've gone after. And so teaching came across to me, and the reason why teaching came across to me was because of my personal experience and personal life, which had to do with a broken home. Back when broken homes were not the norm.
Right.
My parents got divorced in 1965, and so I was in the minority and so there were teachers that made a difference.
Wow.
There were few teachers that I connected with. Not a whole lot.
Right.
There were some terrible ones. Absolutely. Forgettable. I remember their names, but anything else, no.
Right.
What you remember is the human connection that you make with some individual, and especially if you were a child in distress, which I was. So you make a connection with someone, and there were teachers that made that difference, that saw. So in this other, 20, 30 years later, in this existential moment of saying, I'm here as an actor, I have a child, I don't want my daughter to say, oh, look, there goes Daddy behind the flaming fajita to table 7. I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So what else can I do? And I have to make a career change. And for someone who grew up watching their parents, like my father, worked for AT&T his entire life.
Wow.
That was it. Retired from it.
Wow.
My mother worked for IBM for 17, 18 years and then retired from that.
Wow.
So making career change was a big difference for me. So I thought teaching was something, and the reason I thought that is because some teachers made a difference, and so I thought it was something that I could do.
For sure. Huh.
So I went into teaching for that reason.
Wow.
That was why I chose it. Okay.
Interesting.
So, and besides it making a difference for children, for children that had, and the reason why it's only years later that I realized that the reason why I went to teaching was because the same reason I chose in acting was, for one, getting on a stage and feeling that love coming back, and approval, which I needed as a child.
Yeah.
I got that in theater, but theater was also for me about giving to others, and that while I was performing, I was educating, hopefully. I was enlightening people about things in characters' lives.
Right.
Make a connection to them. And it's just, everything's about making a fucking connection.
That's very true.
That's very
true.
So the skills I nurtured in acting translated really goddamn well.
I bet.
To teach. Okay? I could be open. I could be emotional. I could be real. I understood children because of what I'd been through as a child myself, and looking for, support in a classroom, and not just academic marks, not just grades, but see the child. So that's how I got into that. Okay, that's how I got into teaching. That's how I picked teaching as a thing I possibly do. Okay, help me get back to what you need.
You actually answered my first question. Why did you become a teacher?
Yeah. That's where I start. Okay?
That's great. And in your opinion, what makes a good teacher?
It depends on how you define teacher.
That's very true.
What is a teacher to you? Let's agree on. What I try and teach when kids are writing is like the first thing if we're going to have a conversation, we have to agree on the terms.
Right.
When I say teaching, I mean this. When you say teaching, what do you mean? What do you think of it as?
Oh, I think a teacher is many things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how you prioritize those then is what, is then going to provide me, my personal definition of how to be a good teacher.
Right.
Okay. So for me, I'm looking forward to doing my very last back to school night. Your mother didn't get the chance. Your mother didn't get the chance because she, ended up deciding she was retiring halfway through the year.
Yeah, that's true.
I see mine coming.
Wow.
It's the train at the end of the tunnel, and it's got its lights on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. My password is 14 months.
That's stupid.
But I know it's coming. So on my back to school nights, I've always said, it's hard to make what you do as a teacher comprehensible to parents, because parents have an idea in their head of what school is from what they experienced.
That's a good point.
And so that's the lens that we all see it through. So when parents come to back to school night and it's their first back to school night, they act just like children. They act like they were in the school. Right. And there are times you can ask, and they have no questions. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to prolong anything. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They're waiting for the bell to ring.
Right.
They're back to school night for their kids back to school, and they're waiting for the bell to ring.
That's very true.
I tell them I have 2 jobs. And my first job is to form a relationship with that child.
That's very true.
Okay? So I try to form a relationship with that child. And that's not easy, but, I do my best to find a way to form a relationship with that child. Second thing that I do is I try to teach the child where they are. I meet the child where they are. Where the heck they are. I try to move them along the lines that we do, whether it's emotional growth, whether it's academic growth, whatever.
That's great. So speaking of your students, can you describe the current climate of your school? So social, political, cultural, and then can you tell me a little bit about your classroom and your students? Okay. all of that good stuff.
Okay, so it's Forest School.
Right.
I don't know, you probably have to delete that out. It's middle class, okay? Yeah. It's only middle class.
Yeah, it is.
Many of them think they're aspiring, but they are struggling to aspire. And maybe that's just part of America at this point in time.
True.
The kids that I'm seeing, I'm retiring in a year. And from when I began, and I've done it'll be a straight 26 years by the time I'm done.
Right.
And by the time I'm done, I've seen kids that, the society has changed, as you well know. The apps, the phones, the fractured, when I began, when I was at the start of it, MTV was the thing.
Wow.
And MTV was changing the neurological patterns of children by flashing things and changing things every 10 seconds or so.
Wow, that's interesting.
And that was the first time that had happened. You didn't have that on TV, in media, in this,
Right.
It just didn't exist like that.
Right.
Things didn't change. They weren't all like, and MTV started to change that. And then, where we are now with media and what they get and what they see and how it affects them in so many ways, from a shortened attention span to a lack of social skills, inability to connect to each other, inability to focus or for an extended period of time on anything. That has all affected classrooms.
That is so true.
And forest school especially, because in the time I've been there to now, the percentage of classified students, IEPs, emotionally disabled, challenged physically or in some other way, altogether, we're through the roof. We are 35. I can't even get a number for it. It's got to be 35 to 40% of my students are classified.
That's crazy.
When I went to Fordham, because it was the only school that offered a 1-year master's.
Wow.
That was all we could afford. I had a small child. My wife was working for an investment banking firm. We could afford to take, after I had an emotional breakdown and told her, so what am I going to do with my life?
No.
I don't know. She says, well, okay, we need to find you. You need to whatever. Okay, you think you can do teaching? But I didn't want to jump into teaching without doing some work. They would have allowed me to go from being a BFA in theater to be a classroom teacher, because that's desperate the education system is.
Wow.
That's how desperate the government is to find teachers, even back then.
Wow, interesting.
So, but I didn't want to go in totally cold, and there were those that were willing to do that. So we found the only 1-year master's program in teaching, where you could go and become a teacher and get your student teaching and come out with a license after 1 year. That was Fordham in 1994.
Huh.
Yeah. So
interesting.
My wife said, okay, fine, I can pay for that. And so she supported me while I went to school. And I would take care of the kid, my daughter Vanessa, and work on my paper, okay? And then do homework and go back.
That's a lot.
So we lived like that. So that's, and when I started in Fairlawn, I was in the middle school, and I was hired by someone I had no real respect for. He was a fine enough guy, but he was an administrator that, came out of phys ed, as so many of them seem to do.
Yeah.
Such a coincidence.
I know, right?
I took the job because I needed it, and worked for him for a few years, and then wanted to get away from him, and I transferred down to the elementary school because I wanted to work with a whole child. And in the middle school, they were changing over to a junior high program. I came down to elementary because I wanted to teach a whole child. I didn't want to know a child just from, oh, you're Jimmy.
Right.
You're bad at math. I teach math.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Isn't it? I trained as a general ed teacher. I had that 1 year at Fordham, and I went into teaching, and I taught a year in New York, and then I came out to Fairlawn and taught 5 years in the middle school and transferred to the elementary school. And during the time I've been in the elementary school, the population of children who were classified has gone from roughly, 12%, I'm estimating, to, as I said, 35 or more percent.
That's crazy. Why do you think that is?
Because it costs money to in the state constitution about education is the province of the state, and the state has decided through many legal arguments to teach the child in the least restrictive environment. That's the phrase, least restrictive environment. So I have children that have all kinds of challenges whether they are physical, emotional, or intellectual.
Right.
All of those children, they want to teach in the regular public school because, you know what? As much as they can be, they should be. As much as they can be, they should be. And do I believe that it enriches the general school population for kids to come in contact with other kids that have challenges? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Interesting.
Do I think that it's perhaps at, you mentioned the phrase tipping point, which is a wonderful phrase. Very trendy. Yeah, I think there's a tipping point. I don't know what it is, but I know that without enough support in the classroom, you can't. And yes, there is. You know, I've got to be at it now. 35% or more of children that are classified. Well, yes, I believe in the rule of thirds. In any group you have a third that are low, a third that are in the middle, and a maybe high. And actually, of the high, statistics have shown that the high percentage out of 100 is 5 kids out of that 100.
Wow.
Okay? Wow. Now that's numerics, which I'm no fan of, especially in an inclusion classroom.
Right.
I don't want to judge kids by numbers. I don't want to give them numbers.
Wow.
I think that you've studied, so you know about the history of education.
Right. Yes.
Got to this grading and how we got to this system.
Yes.
Right? From one room classrooms or universities for rich people. They used to get to study at universities, and then on the prairie it was the one room classroom. And then the Industrial Revolution comes along, and they'd say, "Hey, we got large numbers of kids, and their parents need to go work in factories, so we need to do something with these kids. What are we going to do with them?
Right.
We have to put them together in one big place. And how do we do that? Well, where have they organized large groups of people? In the military and over in factories and stuff. Let's take those models." And so our schools look like fucking factories. And the classrooms look like that. And we organize the children by age, not intellectual ability, age. And so they're all grouped together. And then we start to give them grades and numbers, numerics. Why? Because, well, that's what they do in factories. We have a production rate of 96 3/3%. But that means nothing to a person. It doesn't help a person that you give them a grade of 93 or 72 or 64.
That's very true.
Okay? And what are you judging them on? All grading is subjective.
That's actually my next question. How do you assess student learning, and do you use alternative methods like portfolios, group projects? We were just talking about this.
Being as I have kids that have real challenges.
Right.
I mean, I've taught kids that one child, ADHD, OCD, ODD.
Right.
Are you good on all these letters?
Yes. Good.
And a little Tourette's syndrome on the top.
Wow.
I've taught all kinds of students that are autistic.
Wow.
From Asperger's syndrome to more severe. I've had students that have cerebral palsy. Wow. Okay. All kinds of just everything. And you know what? They're beautiful people. Okay, and the fact that they're in a school, and I'm supposed to grade them on a subject, I really don't give a crap, because you know what I'm making? I'm trying to make people.
That's very true.
Not good math students or good science students.
Right.
I want them to be good at that. I want them to understand. I want them to be able to do that. But that ain't what I'm making.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm a teacher, and I'm in the business of making something here.
Wow.
At least trying to. And I want them to grow, and I want them to be able to do as much as they can.
Right.
So grading was the focus here, right?
Right.
Can I tell a story?
Go for it.
Okay. So I had one super excellent professor.
Okay.
After I got my master's in teaching, so that I could be a teacher, and went in to be a teacher. While I was teaching in Fair Lawn, in the beginning of my career, they had a program where, okay, let's talk about money. Let's just take a little side route into money here and say that teachers make a bargain, or at least they used to. The ones that I've got in when I was in, they made a bargain that they would take less salary, but they would come out with a pension, and come out and not have to pay for health care. That would be taken care of. That was the bargain when I got into teaching, which will bring us to Christie later on, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, as Rachel Maddow would say, stick a pin in that. So, that's why I got in. That's making the bargain. And the money only increases for a teacher up to year, depending on your school district. It says, and you have a certain number of years. And so my district has an up to 19-year grid.
Okay.
And so I get a little increase for every year of experience up to 19. At 19, I'm capped. I'm solid. I can't make any more. If I went and got other degrees, if I became expert, and I already am after 19 years, for God's sake.
Right.
If whatever I did would not increase my salary unless I took on more duties to get a stipend if I worked even more time. So I'm locked in at 19. The only way to make more money is to move laterally on the grid, from having a bachelor's to getting a master's, to getting a master's plus 15 credits, to getting a master's plus 30 credits. So I came in with my master's. I wanted to work over on the grid because I understand not a lot about money. I was a terrible math student in school. So now I teach it for a living. I knew that I had to get over there because it's cumulative and it adds up. Whatever you lose in the 1 year, you lose that again in the next year and in the next year. It adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars over your career.
Oh my God.
So I went to Montclair to get a degree in administration and supervision, and I had one superb professor. I have to say his name. Juan Miguel Fernandez Balboa.
That's quite a name.
An incredible name. He was a great professor. I loved him. I took him for 2 courses. You chase after a good professor, right?
That's true. That's very true.
This is the story about grading. My only goal as a teacher is to teach you how to ride your bike. And you're going to learn how to ride your bike. And so I start by explaining to you the parts of the bike. Here they are: wheels, pedals, handlebars. You do this, you pedal, you do right, and you go. Okay, ready? Good. Here we go. Okay, and I go right, coast you along. Here you are. You're riding. Great, wonderful. Look at you. You're great. Oh, look out for that. Oh, okay, never mind. It's okay. You all right? All right. You crashed, but it's okay. Come on back. Now, what you did was you didn't steer. You didn't turn the handlebars. So next time when you get to that fire hydrant, you're going to turn the handlebars so you don't hit.
Right.
Here we go. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot. I'm a teacher and I'm teaching you. So I have to grade you. You crashed. That's an F. Don't worry about it. Ain't no big thing. Let's go again. Right? You ready? Here we go. On you go. Boom, boom, boom. You get to that. Oh, you turn off that. That's wonderful. Oh, wait. No, keep. Oh, wait. Look out. Crash. You crashed again. What a shame. Oh, my God. Are you okay? Good. You forgot to keep pedaling. Next time, I'm going to keep pedaling. You turned off fire hydrant. That was good. Now you keep pedaling. Okay, here we go. Ready to go. Oh, I forgot. I got to grade you because I'm a teacher. You crashed again. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to write this little F over here. Get on your bike. Here we go. Ready? Whee! Here we go. You did it. You're riding your bike. You rode the fire hydrant. You kept pedaling. Look at you. You're gone. I can't even follow you anymore. A. Now I'm going to average those grades. You learned how to ride your bicycle. You accomplished your goal. You accomplished my goal. But your grade is, I don't know, a C minus. Is that fair? What is the purpose of that? There is no purpose.
Right. Wow.
I love the story. That's Juan Miguel.
That's great. So kind of going off of that, what are, of all elements of teaching today, what are you most frustrated by?
I think I'm most frustrated by the administrative tasks.
A lot of teachers said that.
And also about how the use of the implementation of technology in education
Another one of my questions.
was going to make my life easier. And it hasn't. Wow. Small example. In the old days,
Okay.
we used to have cards. And if the kid was absent, we marked it on the card.
Right.
And we sent it down to the office and they marked it. And that was it for the day.
Wow.
Now, I have to, pull up the program. Is everything on? Is it working? Good, it's on. Here are all the kids. Okay, here's the attendance. I mark it. Boom. And it gets submitted. And invariably, 5 teachers out of 40 don't send in their attendance. And so the secretary has to get on the line and say, teachers, please submit your attendance.
Right.
Okay? Get interrupted for that. And then after lunch, I have to redo the attendance. I have to mark attendance again after lunch. Why is that? It used to be just once, but now with technology, it's twice.
Right.
And there's the announcement because the same 5 teachers haven't posted there, and so we get interrupted again.
Oh my God.
And you know what? In the office, they know if a kid has gone home sick.
Right.
Because the nurse's office is right next to you. They know it. So why are they calling, asking for if the kid went home, they know he went home. So technology has not made things easier. The administrative tasks, okay, and here we'll go back to Christie. Because he's the POS that brought in the evaluation system. In Fair Lawn,
yes.
The evaluation system has always sucked.
Right.
It just is just lame.
Right.
Okay? I used to be in theater. You know what they say for a director in theater? 95% of directing is casting.
Wow.
Did you pick the right person? Then let them alone and let them do their. But in government work, we have to be, checking them all the time. And this is the other thing about testing. Okay, here's my analogy for testing.
Okay.
I'm going to test my kids, and I have to test my kids all the time, just like I have to get tested that I'm still a good teacher, that I'm not sitting in the chair and drooling. Do you know how you check the oil in a car?
Kinda.
Let me explain.
Okay.
You open up the hood first, and you find where the oil thing is, and then you pull it out, and it's a ring, and it's a long stick, okay? And you wipe it off, and you put it in, and you pull it out, and it shows right where the oil is. Oh, it's a little low. Oh, it's a problem, okay? And I call it dip sticking. So when an administrator comes in to decide whether I'm still a good teacher or not, after 24 years, it's a little late, I think. He dipsticks me. I teach 1,000 lessons a year. He sees one, and he measures, and he gives me a number.
Wow.
And this is all part of the evaluation system and the SGOs. Okay? Yeah, right. The scores. It's not enough that we grade all through the year for their report card grades. And there's another grading system that is the state testing grading system, the PARC or the New Jersey ASC it was before that, or now it's the NJSLA. So there are grades they have to measure, and I have to measure grades and record numbers and everything for report cards. Then there is the state one like this, and then there's the SGO, which is a state-imposed grading system on the teacher. And now I have to create a test, a challenge based on my students and what they need to learn. I have to come up with a testing device, and I have to test them. Not twice, but 3 times during the year.
Oh my God.
And then I have to report that data. I have to report it in the beginning of the year.
Right.
I have to report it at the middle of the year. I have to report it at the end of the year. Did I meet my SGO? And my SGO, my student growth objective is a number that I have been told to come up with. I have to say 85% of my students will achieve a grade of 80 or better on this little test that I made up for this little skill.
That's ridiculous.
That I have determined that they are weak in. So now I'm going to teach it to them and test them 3 times during the year. And then I'm going to write all about it and I'm going to put it in. That's administrative BS that I don't need to be doing.
That's ridiculous.
Did I explain it well enough?
You did. No, for sure.
Did you know it already from your mom?
A little bit. But that was great. That was great. And do you see like a change now that Murphy's in office? With these policies?
I suppose there's. You know what? Okay. Now now that Murphy's in office, now that we have a Democrat instead of a Republican, really think that things are going to change drastically. Do you understand the economic incentive to the testing companies to keep the testing in the schools?
Right.
They're going to fight tooth and nail. They're going to pay politicians to keep the testing in the schools.
Right.
And to keep, because that's their money. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect it to change a whole lot.
Wow.
Now, this will be the first year of Murphy's effect on the testing in education.
Okay.
This will be the first year, and we'll see. Right now, I am scheduled for 3 days of math. My 5th grade students are scheduled for 3 days of math testing and 2 days of literacy testing and 3 days of science testing in 5th grade. Those happen in 3 separate weeks.
Oh my God.
Okay?
That's crazy.
They totally blow the schedule. And it's, while you know what they'll do to minimize it? They'll point to the number of minutes. Well, we're down 37 minutes from last year's scores in testing. It's taking students, a half an hour less. And we're working on reducing that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. You're still shooting 3 weeks of school.
Right.
Still totally upsetting it.
Oh my God.
Okay. For numbers, for testing that, we've become so in love with numbers in this world. What is it? Mm-hmm. Do we think these numbers are going to solve anything? Are going to give us a greater understanding? Okay? Beyond a certain point, they do nothing for us.
Right.
Why are we generating them? Why am I coming up with another test to get more numbers? Mm-hmm. Give me a next question. I'm raving.
That was great. So you touched upon privatization a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you have any more thoughts on privatization in the classroom with Pearson?
Oh my God!
Yeah. I thought you would.
Privatization. Okay, so I've seen. You know what? The building I work in is like 100 years old.
Right.
And it was made for 100 years ago.
Wow.
And what they have done to try to make changes for the time.
Yeah.
Is just to stick more stuff in. Mm. So now, yes, I have a smartboard and I don't have chalkboards anymore. Mm-hmm. When I started, I did have a chalkboard. I'm kind of romantic about the chalkboard.
Wow, right.
Yeah. So now I've got the smartboard. But you know what? I've still got a TV like mounted on my wall. I've been trying to get them to get rid of it for 10 years, but they don't get rid of it.
Wow.
What I've seen privatized in my time in Fairlawn is the custodial service.
Huh. Okay. Oh, my mom's talked about that.
Yeah. So they privatized the custodial service to try and, save money. People are people, okay? And if you work for a crummy corporation, paying you $8 an hour to clean the school, okay? What allegiance do you have to it? What could you? Same thing, money talks and bullshit walks. And this society is a capitalist society, and the way that we reward people is with money.
Yes.
That's the way we tell them that what they do matters.
Right. That's very true.
And it's upside down in America. It's upside down.
For sure.
So does the $7 an hour, corporation custodial person coming in, do they clean better, worse than the person that worked for the community?
Right.
That depends. That depends on who that person from the community that works in the school and cleans the school is. Right. Some of them are wonderful, and some of them are no better than the $7 immigrant, okay, that's cleaning the school. It doesn't matter. And I can't even fault them so much because, there's just so much work to be done.
Right, I can't imagine.
I don't know. I was reading Jonathan Kozol. Did they still read any Jonathan Kozol books?
I think so.
Oh my gosh. He was, that was back in the 90s. And he was talking about the inequality in schools, like in Newark and Camden.
Wow. That's interesting.
And in West New York. Okay? And the inequality, is unfortunately still exists. Okay? It's still there.
Right.
Privatization. If they're privatizing, so all that's privatized in my school is the custodial service. I haven't seen more, although they have threatened. They have looked. They seem to want to privatize the paras. They seem to want to privatize perhaps the technology aspect of it.
Interesting.
But technology, look what they did. They pushed technology into school.
Right.
Poor people wind up with technology in their hands.
True.
Do you know about the Silicon Valley? Silicon Valley people who send their kids to private schools that say, keep your iPhone out of here.
Right.
This feedback, this replacement for human contact that they have built into the system, they do not allow their schools and their children to have them. But they push the technology into, those are the people making money off of people. They're saying, well, have you got a Chromebook policy? What do they call it? A 1-per-1?
Something like that. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Right? Every student we have gets a laptop.
Right.
That's the answer to certain people making lots of money.
For sure.
Go ahead, get off my capital.
Wow. That was great. So how have you and your colleagues responded to Governor Christie education reform policies and national policies?
Okay, I was a teacher before that Governor Walrus came along.
Right.
And I'm a teacher after he's gone. As I see it, all he did was undermine teachers in every way.
Yeah.
The most egregious example I can think of is when teachers sent home a notice saying, "Please, parents, vote. It's the election of the board, or it's the referendum on the budget. Please get out and vote." And because that notice went home, he said that teachers were using students as drug mules.
I guess I missed that.
Check that. That's a quote. He said teachers were using children as drug mules because they were sending home a notice that simply said, if you care about education, go out and vote. I'm not telling you how to vote. Vote your budget up, vote budget down, but vote, for God's sake, America. So what he took us from, remember I told you you make, okay, sorry, I'm going to go here. My wife has a BFA in theater.
Okay.
I have a BFA in theater.
Wow.
I have 2 masters in it. My wife works in investment banking. My wife makes 5 times my salary after 24 years in my profession.
Wow.
In business, she makes 5 times my salary. And I, as I told you, am all the way over on the guide. Yeah. Masters plus 30. 19 years. I'm at the top of my guide. where I'm stuck and frozen for these last 6 years of my career. And that's in this New Jersey area. So you put your money where your mouth is. And if America cared about education, they'd look at other countries that go after they always talk about the Norwegian countries. Okay, and the facts on them, and the fact that their education system is so high, and look at the most recent study; they are happy people, as opposed to Americans,
right?
Ranked at 17 or 19 or are falling fast. But they value teachers, and they think they are the most important ones in their society.
Yes,
and they go to colleges and they recruit the most intelligent in the college to then become teachers.
Right.
Whereas in this country, it's all about capitalism and earning a buck, and whoever has the most bucks wins the race.
Right.
And ascends immediately to, wonderful life. And so in our country, they become MBAs and they go into business. So that's the way the money goes. So what Christie did was not just not increase teachers' pay, he cut teachers' pay.
Right.
By going after, one, saying we had to contribute more to health insurance.
Right.
Christie came to a town hall in Fairlawn, and I was fortunate enough to go to it, and I knew that he was a sucker for a New Jersey Mets cap, and so I wore a New Jersey Mets cap. And I got there, and I got to ask him a question in front of everybody, and he was going on about, because he was coming back to the teachers at the time, saying, yeah, well, we need to take more money from you guys to pay for the pension, because the actuaries that we have working for the state estimated incorrectly on the growth. And so the state of New Jersey, which at the time had not paid into the teachers fund for 17 out of 19 years,
right.
They had not done their payment.
Right.
Underfunding our pension, and then came to us asking for us to do more. And then he came this second time and was asking us for more contribution from teachers into our pension. And teachers had been contributing all along to their pension. Their contribution had been every year. The state had not.
Right.
He comes to us asking again. I stand up and I ask him, I say, okay, so we're to hope that this time your accountants and your actuaries have the figures right, and you want us to contribute more, right? Then why did you veto a millionaire's tax twice? I got big applause from the audience.
Wow.
While they were applauding, he walked across the stage to get a drink of water.
Oh my God.
And somebody on his team came and took my microphone away from me. I learned a lot that day. If you ever get the microphone in your hand, don't give it up.
Wise words.
So he took more from us. So teachers had to contribute more to their pension, besides what they were already contributing.
Wow.
And then the worst of all was the health insurance. Teachers went from getting health insurance as part of their salary package.
Right.
We had a low salary compared to the amount of education that most of us had. Compared me to my wife. But that was a trade-off, and we got the free health insurance for it. But now all of a sudden, it's not fair that you state workers are getting free health insurance when in business they have to pay for it. Now, first of all, are you comparing state workers to business where they have to profit for? We provide services that are necessary to the society. Why are we being judged by the same metric as business people who have to make a profit and get their health insurance from that? Okay? It's part of our reduced salary package.
Right.
But anyway, so we have to start contributing. And it's gone up to, we contribute now, teachers. Now, I'm fortunate because my wife makes the money she does.
Yeah.
It happened, we jumped onto her insurance.
Oh, wow, that's good.
I haven't had to pay that. Wow. But the teachers in the classrooms next to me are paying $20,000 or more for a family insurance policy per year.
Oh my God.
And that is up from zero.
That is crazy.
That is a reduction, an average reduction in their wages of $20,000. So while they may have gotten, oh, look, I got $1,000 more this year than last year. Ooh, I got $900 more this year than last year because I'm working my way up the grid.
Right.
I got a phased-in reduction that is now, at this point, paying, 30% of my health insurance cost, which the district estimates at $20,000 or more for a family.
That's absurd.
Teachers have just lost money. There is a mass exodus going on from teachers and education in this country. Okay? I don't know a senior teacher like myself, that is looking for the exit and saying it doesn't pay me to work 1 year more.
Right.
I am being insulted. I am being robbed. There is no benefit at all other than being a martyr for America's children, which, you know what? Come on. Let's be real. I love kids. That's why I got into teaching. I want to make it better for the child in front of me. I want them, when I look at a kid, I say, God, what is that kid dealing with?
Wow. So these questions are more outside of the classroom questions.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the national wave of teacher strikes, strikes for equal pay and better resources?
What took so long?
That's
what I think. What the hell took so long? I'll tell you what, teachers been being beat on by people like Christie, calling them drug mules and saying they're greedy and they're living off the dole and they're, not providing. Oh, and look, our education scores are going down compared to these other countries. How the hell can you compare America to Sweden or Japan or Norway? They have homogeneous populations. They are 1/10 our size. It's a completely different comparison. Sorry for yelling.
No, that's good.
It's convenient at certain times for them to use them as comparisons.
Right.
And the only time I want to compare us to them is in an aspirational mode.
Right.
Like, wow, look at what they do. Look at what they do. And they get really good results. Is it possible we can do some of that?
Right.
Do you know in those Norwegian, Scandinavian countries, they get a prep for every period they teach?
That's crazy. Wow.
They get a prep for every... And what great lessons you could do. Okay? Instead of just looking at the book and saying, okay, we're on page 34. Everybody turn to page 34. Okay, here we go. What's it say? Let's do that.
Oh my.
The teacher could prepare a much better lesson for their students to learn this thing.
So, do you think these teacher resistance movements had something to do with our political climate today in Trump?
Teachers have when I said teachers are a victim of the system?
Right.
So many teachers were educated in the public education system and through the college system. And what did they do, They went right back into a classroom. That is their only perspective. That is their only frame of reference.
Right.
I used to speak to a gym teacher who, like me, came to teaching through a second career.
Okay.
And he, like me, would say, this is easy. You know how hard I used to work for this kind of money? Right? This is easy. So we enjoyed what we were doing. It was different. We'd been out and we'd seen the world. If all you've known is school culture, and then you go back in and you become that teacher, it can be pretty myopic.
Right.
It reduces your frame of reference. You have no worldly view. And you become indoctrinated into the system. Every day I have to stand while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Jesus Christ 14 more months, I will never again stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Never.
Wow.
Why? Why do we indoctrinate people? But it's the same thing. We indoctrinate children into religion. We indoctrinate them into nationalism. Indoctrinate them into, into society, into a belief of who they are and what they have to be and how they have to. You have to get a job. You know what that's done to us in schools? This is what it's done to us in schools. Within 1 year of Trump becoming president, within months of Trump becoming president, I'd heard parents saying to me when they were told about their child's misbehavior, their child's swearing or callously toward other students, I'd heard Trump quoted as an example. I'd heard, well, the president says that kind of thing. Why can't my child? This is what Trumpites will never understand, is that by his being in the place where he is and saying what he does, he legitimizes that kind of callous talk and behavior. And this, and that doesn't even begin to get to my beliefs that he is a racist and a misogynist, and worst of all, so ignorant, so painfully ignorant, and so incapable of learning.
For sure.
So how has it affected it's affected the callousness.
Wow.
What people say. It's affected the dialogue that goes. It affects, now because of him, racism is increased in the country.
Right.
We have more white nationalist attacks. We have more hate crimes going on. And so we have students using the N-word toward other students. You know what? I don't really recall that happening before he became president. I don't know. I live in New Jersey, okay? That's where I teach. Maybe it's different down in Louisiana. Right. Maybe the word has been used all along down there. But I didn't hear it up here until he became president. And so we have to talk about him, and we have to talk about the racism and the xenophobia and the white nationalist talk and the lies.
Right. Yeah.
I feel the responsibility to explain that, to try to explain that to 10 and 11-year-olds. Children. It wasn't always like this.
Wow.
It wasn't always like this. In the past, the president never would have called African countries, S-hole nations.
Right.
They never, a president never would have done that. But apparently now, that's the way things are. Now, I want to tell you that I don't think that's correct. And we don't want to use that kind of language to... Jesus Christ! Do I have to explain it like that? Oh my God! Isn't it obvious to us all?
Right, you think.
It has these effects, and I have to discuss it, and I have to try and present it to children. I have to make sense of it.
Right.
To 10 and 11-year-olds.
Wow.
That's hard.
It is. It is.
Hard.
Oh my God. So, how have you and your colleagues fought back? You haven't. Why haven't you?
I think that our union, so I've been involved with our union, and, look, in society, any organization you join has its positives and negatives, has its fallbacks, as things undermine the whole process. The organization. So I'm a member of my union, and I observe my union. My union works against these things.
Right.
Okay. I contribute to the ACLU, which works against, and the Southern Poverty Law Center and Planned Parenthood, because these are my beliefs.
Right.
So I fund those beliefs, and and my union, I feel, has worked to challenge. What makes the most difference is education. Education is the thing, as you know, that makes the only difference. Education takes a society and then reduces like rampant overpopulation, okay, or drug use, or the spread of diseases. The only thing that makes us all better is education.
Right.
That's the only thing. And yes, this fair and balanced phrase, right? Yes, a fair and balanced education. But when the other side is just spewing untruths, okay, the phrase has been, you're entitled to your own opinion, but but there's only one set of facts. Okay, you can spin whatever you like from the facts. You can go ahead and try and do that, but the facts are the facts, and you can't change them. And that's where we should be focused.
That's very interesting.
From those, what can we do? How can we make it better?
Very interesting. So, what makes you stay in the profession? Other than I know you have a couple months to go, but until you retire. But what has made you stay in this profession for all these years? Besides the money, too.
Well, I'm sorry to say that it is the bargain.
Right.
That I work 25 years and I can retire.
Yeah.
And at 25 years, I only retire with half pension.
Oh my God. Wow.
What I'm making now, my salary gets cut in half, and then I live on that. But I won't have to drive to work every morning.
That's
so
true.
I'll be saving lots of money, sure. Right.
Right.
But I can't stay. It would be another 9 years, 34, to retire with full pension. 34 years to get to a full pension. But as I told you, I came to teaching as a second career.
Right.
I had a different perspective on life.
Right.
Before I came into the classroom. So I'm older. So I'm looking, okay, when you're 60 years old, dear child, you're going to say to yourself, like I did when I'm taking care of my mother, who's almost 90 in the nursing home. Wow. I have another 20 years of life, and how do I want to spend it? I hope I'm not walking away from teaching and turning my back on children. I think I'm really good at what I do. Or really good relationships with children. I'm able to make many things exciting to them, present them to them well, and I hope that in some way I can continue to do that. But staying and teaching and working so hard for exactly the same dollar amount year after year.
Right.
I'm frozen in salary.
Right.
I get no continued appreciation. I'm worth this much, and that's all. And that's it. That is disrespectful. That is disrespectful.
It is. It is.
Why should I stand for that? Why? Because I'm a martyr? Because I think that as a teacher, I should open my veins and bleed for my students?
Right.
What kind of an asshole human being would I be if I did that?
Yeah.
Well, he's obviously someone that has no respect for himself and only finds his identity through bleeding through for his students. What sense does that make as a human being in this world? So I'm not going to be a martyr, and I'm not going to hang on a tree, and I got 20 years left, and I have many other interests that I will pursue.
That's great.
And if some of them intersect with teaching and being with kids, and I can do that, then that'll be great.
That's great.
I look forward to that.
What other interests do you have in mind? Do you know yet?
My first career was theater.
You're going to go back to that?
You know what? I'm going to try.
Good for you.
It's a completely different world.
Good for you.
When I was in theater, you got backstage paper. It came out on Thursdays, and you looked for interviews you looked for auditions in the paper, and you went to cold calls.
That's
Guess
cool.
what? It doesn't work like that anymore.
Really?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I don't know how it works, but at 60 years old, I'm going to try to find out.
That's great. Good for you.
I write for myself. I wrote plays and I directed plays
Wow.
when I was in theater also. So I've shared some of my poems with your mother. So, I will continue to write. I love music.
Wow.
I will love poetry. I'm going to pursue some other interests, which unsettles my wife to a great degree.
Oh my God. That's
but
so funny.
We're going to get through it.
Good for you. You deserve it.
Chelsea.
You deserve it. So I have one last question, and then I'm gonna ask you for your teaching story. So my last question is, what should education look like? What is the role of education in our society today? And how can we encourage more young people to become teachers? Should we even encourage them?
Stop. Your question is too huge already. It's too big. What do I think education should look like? Is that, I caught that part?
Yes, okay. We'll start with that.
But like I said, we got to agree on what education is.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
So you put me in a room and you say I'm responsible for these 10, 11-year-olds.
Right.
I have to teach them what? Oh, you're telling me I have to teach them this in science, I have to teach them this in social studies, this in reading and writing, and these test-taking skills. Because that's so important. Our population is changing.
For sure.
So our education has to look like what our population needs. And as I encounter more students with more emotional or educational problems, then I'm going to deal with that.
Right.
But what we need to do is decide, okay, let's get some boundaries. Let's get some idea.
Right.
How many educationally disadvantaged, challenged emotionally, challenged intellectually, how many of those students can I actually take in a regular education classroom and still have optimal learning be an outcome? And when I say learning, I don't mean just test scores on math and science and reading. I mean learning of those emotional skills, what that child needs. Okay, I got a room, I got a class. This kid has such problems that I don't really have any academic goals for them. My goals for them this year are emotional and social.
Wow.
Whatever they get academically, gravy.
Wow.
These are my goals for this kid. Can I do that? I think I'm doing that in my classroom now.
Wow.
This kid, aces. This kid, top of the class. This kid needs to be challenged because in an old school regular education classroom, this kid would be in the top third. Okay? He'd be one of your top 2 or 3 kids in your class. How can you keep them challenged? What can I do for them? So this is the impossibility, is that, the IEP, Individual Educational Plan?
Right.
Well, we're getting to the point where every freaking kid has an IEP. What kind of teacher can do?
Yeah.
What, are you kidding me? That is not going to be a science. It's going to be an art.
Wow.
You've got. I know that this kid I need to challenge. I need to push. But you know what? This smartest kid I've got a smart kid. I got a kid in my class this year who is just aces at math, above everybody else. Our number 1 student, and naturally so. He's there. I give him what challenging math things I can. Things that might be a grade ahead or 2 grades ahead at him to see if he's interested. Wow. But you know what he really wants to do? He loves to draw cartoons.
Wow.
And he's smart. And he's agile with his intellect. And he put that into his cartoons. And that's another interest of his.
Wow.
Is somebody going to come along and tell me that I should only, who would? The math supervisor would come along and tell me, well, what are you doing for that top student? Are you him mentally, mathematically all the time? And I want to be able to say, you know what? I want to be able to recognize this other thing that he does and give him some time to do it.
Wow. That's great.
What does a classroom look like? Okay. Oh, this is a thing I do sometimes with students. I like to put things on a spectrum, right? Everything exists on a spectrum.
Right.
It's a way. It's a way of thinking.
Right.
What we do in life is break things into this area and this area and this area, so that we can study them more in depth. Right. And then hopefully put them back together and synthesize.
Right.
So things exist on a spectrum. So I put on one end of the spectrum equality. And we talk. What is equality? What does it mean? What are the benefits of equality? What do people get from it? And then on the other end of the spectrum, I put equity. Equity. And then I always have to explain to them what equity means. And it means that each one gets what they need.
Wow. And
their needs are different. And so where are they on, where am I on the spectrum? Do I treat everybody equally, even though we all know we're not equal?
Right.
Or do I try to give them what they each need? Yes, I try to give them what they each need, but I have this other thing to balance. Wow. So I have to find somewhere in the middle between equality and equity for each kid. I have to try and give you what you need, but I also have to hold you to a certain standard for all of us.
Right.
Okay? You have to understand that, yes, I know you're special, and you know you're special. We're all special snowflakes. But while honoring what you do and your special gifts, I also have to tell you that your special gifts can't monopolize the fact that each one needs to get something out of this limited time that we're here, learning about worms in science.
Wow. I love that.
That's what I try to do.
That's great.
All right, the role of education. Holy shit, Chelsea. Are you kidding me? The role of education.
Good question, I know.
Education is not the most important thing for the continuation and the improvement of a society. I don't know what it is. That's what it is.
I agree.
If education is the thing that furthers a society and makes it better, improves it. A good education.
I agree.
It gives each individual what they need, not just to prosper in society, but to live a satisfying life. I can't give you this education and guarantee you're going to find a job that's going to pay you $600,000 a year, and you're going to have a swimming pool and a condominium house I can't guarantee that.
Right.
Can I give you an education that will allow you to enjoy your time on this planet and give you some understanding of life and what the heck's going on? Seems to me that would be even more important.
For sure.
Than a job. How to deal with failure. How to persevere. How to pick yourself up off the floor. How to risk something when you're afraid and still try and do it. Very deep when I get going.
That's very deep. You got to write a book or something. Should be.
I'm talking to you, Chelsea. I don't know if I have more ambition than that. I think I've always been a little short on ambition.
No, that's not true. That's great. So the last part of that was, how can we encourage more young people?
I've been very fortunate. I was fortunate in that this is the way I say it. I say it in a flippant manner. I say, yes, well, my wife works in business. That's what's enabled me to do this charity work. Charity work. Because that's the way it teachers make an okay living.
Right.
They don't make a living that's any better than anybody else. Yeah. But if you look at those Scandinavian societies, right? They're paid much higher there.
Right.
As a percentage of what other people are paid for various jobs.
Yeah.
There are states in this union where you can make more money as a sanitation worker
oh my God.
than stepping into a classroom and trying to educate young people.
Oh my God.
For a world that the teacher is not even going to be alive in. That's the funny thing about education.
Yeah.
Is I teach you how to make your way in a world. I can't imagine what it's going to look like.
That's
I'll
very
tell you
true.
stories from when I was in the world and what it looked like and what I had to do.
Right.
I don't know what it's like for you guys. How do you manage?
Right.
Okay?
That's
The
very
difference
interesting.
between your world and the world I grew up in are tremendous. This is why it's. I did learn in my educational training that it's not about the facts, because we learn more facts, we learn better facts. Okay? It's got to be about principles that guide us toward knowing, toward know more, toward being better people. Well, like I said, my wife was in business, so I could do the other work, and it worked for us as a family. Because while she had to work and she made more money, I had the same schedule as children.
Right.
So I was able to be there a lot of the time. I had the summers free, and they were free, and so we could do things together, and so it worked as a family.
Right.
As a family unit, having one person being a teacher, that works pretty good.
Right.
I don't know that I have more encouragement than that.
Wow.
Other than saying it's the most important freaking job in the nation, even if the rest of the freaking nation doesn't see it. Even if they don't reward it, even if they don't honor it.
Wow.
Because more important than, the politicians, the corporations control what's going on in the country right now. People are trying to have their say and have more influence, but they control what's going on now.
Right.
But in education,
Right.
we have a chance to influence the future. Okay? You don't get that in many other professions. I mean, unless you invent something that,
That's very true.
people's world.
I agree. Well, I want to know, what is your teaching story? And this can be told in narrative form. So, what is one story that defines what it's like being a teacher in New Jersey, or maybe like a teacher as a whole? I know that you have a lot of stories, especially working at Forest.
Yeah.
So if you can think of maybe one or two.
Be a teacher. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So here's one. Two short ones. Let's see if this
perfect.
One was while I was still a student teacher, and I was like 30 years old when I was getting into teaching and pursuing my degree and a student teacher, and so I was substituting.
Okay.
And I was substituting in a first grade classroom, and all hell was breaking loose.
Oh my God.
And I seemed to have no control over it. And it's just a moment of turning to the blackboard, and first graders, they're 6 years old. And all of a sudden I start writing on the blackboard, and I'm writing something on the blackboard. But while I'm writing on the blackboard, I'm really talking to myself, and I'm saying, holy fuck, I have absolutely no control over these children. All kinds of crap what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And so, I thought of something, and I turned around and I did it. I picked up a book and I started reading. And because I was, had been in theater, I knew how to read a goddamn book good.
Right.
So I started reading to them, and I got their attention. And eventually they all, and I settled them down. Wow. That was one. That was my first panic experience in a classroom.
Wow.
Another time was when, I had already been a teacher for about, I'd been a teacher for 5 years. It was my first year at Forest School. And while I was in middle school, it was not students that were classified. I did not have students in my classroom that had intellectual or emotional problems. And so I didn't have experience with that. And so, but I wanted to transfer to down to the elementary because they were changing over and making it a middle school. Right. They were making it a junior high model. And I wasn't going to have my sixth graders for everything except science anymore. Right. I was going to have them for just one subject. And I didn't want to get to know a person based on one subject that they might be bad at.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
John, you really suck at math. Have a seat.
So sad.
Anyway, so I go down to the elementary school,
Mm-hmm.
and I had these, and they bring in, and all of a sudden, I'm okay. I'm doing all right with my math students, with the class that I have. I have a homeroom that has the inclusion students in it.
Oh.
And the inclusion students include, this one with severe emotional problems, this one who is of a very low IQ.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 80 or less IQ. This one who, has, Tourette's syndrome and various other tics and other problems. And I was doing okay with all the other subjects because they went out for most of their reading and math and writing and everything.
Right.
Time for social studies, and they all come in the room. And all of a sudden it's me and all of them, my regular ed students and my classified students, and about 3 paras and aides and, other adults in the classroom to assist this one, with his pencil writing, and this one with his tears, and this one with his hiccups, and I'm looking, and I'm saying, okay, so we're going to take a look at chapter 1 in social studies. Please turn to page 3, and immediately the classified students start going, I want to go home. I want to go home. And this one's jumping up and he's looking out the window. Ooh, look, there's a bird. There's a squirrel. There's a frog. Okay. And I'm like, oh my God. I go home and I do this for my wife. I do this impersonation of what it's like. And I'm like, okay, kids. All right. Don't worry, John. Turn to page 3. Don't cry, Billy. It's okay. Can you help him turn to page 3? Find page 3 for him, for God's sakes.
Oh my God.
Come away from the window. And I'm just like, I'm completely unused to this. I was trained as a general education teacher.
That's crazy.
And they throw you in, and all of a sudden you're supposed to deal with all of these difficulties that all these children have.
I don't know how you did that.
And you learn how to calm this one down. It's okay, Raymond. Don't worry. Okay, Brandon, get off the windows. Get back. Get off the windows. All right, come on back. Let's talk. All right, everybody. Now look at, what is it? Can we get somebody to read paragraph 1? It's pretty challenging.
I can't imagine.
I've had other times, okay, what I've learned to do over all these years is, I had my own problems as a child in a classroom in an elementary school. Mm-hmm. And so I've tried to make room for, and I've done very well by, kids that are different. Mm-hmm. Kids that are different. Kids that, have tics or have problems or are nervous or are really bookwormy or just don't understand what the other person is saying and why are you laughing and I don't get it.
Yeah.
I've learned to make space for them, and I've learned to teach the other ones that this one is different. Wow. Why the heck would you expect this Johnny to be able to do this?
You're right.
Do you know how Johnny shakes? Well, asking Bradley to stop tapping you is like asking Johnny to stop shaking. And Johnny has cerebral palsy and he can't stop shaking. So just like that, this one can't stop asking you, you want to be partners? You want to be friends? You want to be partners? Because they just don't get it. And guess what? This is your world. Learn how to live in it.
Right.
Learn how to live in it and be respectful and kind to people. And you know what? You don't have to judge them. Mm-hmm. You don't have to say they're strange. Right. You don't have to say they're less than you are. Mm-hmm. You're smart, you're quick, Why do we have to do that? Just be yourself. Mm-hmm. Be their selves. Okay? And let's live together for 10 months until you go to the next grade.
That's true.
Hopefully the next teacher can create a climate where you feel safe,
same thing, yeah,
protected, and you can take a risk, and you improve and you learn, and you're kind and you're courteous.
Wow, that's incredible. I have so much respect for you guys.
Thank you.
So much respect. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome, darling. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Rich, and thanks for listening to We Persisted with Chelsea Rivera. If you like our show, want to learn more, or share with a friend, please check out http://cpr294.wixsite.com/wepersisted. If you have a story to tell, please share online. We want to hear your voice. Join us next time when we talk to Joanne. And remember to thank a teacher, stand up in solidarity for teachers, and join in on their fight.